I had to divert, because if I didn't do that, right now you would have Iran with a nuclear weapon. And if they had a nuclear weapon, you would be calling everybody over there, sir. And you don't want to do that.
Well, you keep saying was. Is this war over?
This is the moment everything changed. We're looking at a total strategic checkmate that nobody saw coming. When you hear the word nuclear dropped in this context, you know the stakes just hit the ceiling. Pay close attention to the shift in tone here. It's the sound of a major global power play reaching its endgame. Did you catch the sheer desperation in that leaked audio? That's not just a politician talking. That's the sound of a leader who knows the clock is ticking down to zero. Imagine being in a position where you're openly admitting that you don't even know how to pay the salaries of your own people. It's wild because we rarely get to hear what's happening behind these closed doors when the cameras aren't supposed to be rolling. The panic about the economic collapse being just weeks away is a massive tell. It shows that the naval pressure isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's a total strangulation of their financial lifeline. Look at how the tone shifts when they mention the source of income being cut off. You can almost feel the room spinning for them. This level of internal chaos usually signals a massive pivot or a total breakdown is coming next. It's a side of global conflict we hardly ever see.
Here's the most important thing if we have 10 seconds on this, and I'm sure you would agree with this. The most important part about this story, and look, Swalwell is a scumbag. He is a terrible person, the worst of the worst, the lowest of the low, the most dishonest of the most dishonest. But the real story here is how the Democrat Party controls its members through blackmail. It's got a blackmail file on all of its politicians, and it uses them to leverage and control.
This clip from Miller is going to ruffle some serious feathers, but you've got to look at the underlying mechanics of what he's claiming. He's talking about a blackmail file system, which sounds like something straight out of a political thriller, but he's using it to explain why someone like Swalwell would suddenly vanish from a high-stakes race. It's fascinating to watch how the political machine operates when someone stops playing by the rules. Notice the specific language he uses to describe the leverage and control. If you sit back and think about the timing of these allegations dropping, it makes you wonder about the invisible hands moving the pieces on the board. Whether you agree with his perspective or not, the description of how a party maintains its hierarchy through these files is a dark look at the reality of high-level power. It's like watching a game of chess where the pieces are being removed not by strategy, but by force.
I think it's close to over, yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over. You know what? If I pulled up stakes right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild that country. And we're not finished. We'll see what happens. I think they want to make...
We're circling back to the checkmate logic because the math behind it is actually pretty staggering. When the prediction is that a country would take 20 years to rebuild if things stop right now, you realize we aren't just talking about a temporary blockade. This is about structural, long-term impact. The confidence here is what's most striking, the idea that the deal is the only exit ramp left. If you look at the history of these types of naval maneuvers, they usually drag on for years, but the claim here is that we're already at the finish line. It's a high-stakes gamble on the idea that the economic pressure has already broken the resolve of the other side. You have to wonder if the other side sees it the same way, or if they're preparing a countermove that we haven't seen yet. The phrase, very close to over, is going to be the benchmark we use to judge the success of this entire operation.
In the Persian Gulf, and the world has been thrown into turmoil. This has had an impact across the world. People are dissatisfied and have raised their voices. But we ourselves are in the midst of this turmoil, and despite all these pressures, our work is progressing properly.
Now, contrast that leaked panic with this public statement. It's a textbook example of everything is fine while the building is literally on fire. He's acknowledging the turmoil, but trying to spin it as if work is progressing properly. If you look closely at the body language and the delivery, there's a massive gap between the internal panic we heard earlier and this outward-facing resolve. This is what state-level PR looks like during a crisis. They know the world is watching, and they know their own people are listening. The admission that the world has been thrown into turmoil is their way of trying to export the blame, making it a global problem rather than a domestic failure. It's a classic tactic. If you can't fix the problem, try to make everyone else feel the pain until they force a change. But when your own economy is 90% trade dependent, that spin only works for so long before the reality at the pump and the grocery store takes over. Take a look at these shipping numbers because the data is actually the most brutal part of this story. We're talking about 0 ships arriving or departing. 0. In the world of global logistics, a halted trade status for a country that relies on the sea for 90% of its economy is basically an expiration date. This isn't a slowdown, it's a full stop. When you see those maps of the Strait of Hormuz, you realize how tiny that choke point actually is. It's a geographical nightmare for anyone trying to bypass a blockade. The fact that storage capacity for oil is estimated to run out in just 10 days creates a literal countdown to an environmental and economic disaster. They'll be forced to cap wells, which isn't just a turn off the faucet situation, it can permanently damage the fields. The technical reality of this blockade is far more terrifying than the political rhetoric. It's a mathematical certainty of collapse if the ships don't start moving again.
You need to know VMT. It stands for Vehicle Miles Traveled, and it's yet another sneaky, stealthy way that the Democrats in charge of California want to gouge you for the crime of driving your car.
While everyone is looking at the Middle East, look at what's creeping into the local level back home. This Vehicle Miles Traveled, or VMT graphics, show a total shift in how you're going to be taxed for just living your life. Instead of taxing the fuel, they want to tax the movement itself. It's a stealth tax that tracks exactly how much you're using the infrastructure. For anyone living in a place like California, where commuting is a way of life, this is a massive financial hit. It's essentially a crime of driving tax. When you see the breakdown of how these costs add up, it's easy to see why people are feeling gouged from every direction. It's another layer of pressure being added to an already stressed population. Between global oil wars and local movement taxes, the average person is getting squeezed from both the top down and the bottom up. The world is moving fast, and these power shifts are permanent. Make sure you're subbed so you don't miss the next update. Catch you in the next one.